threat of antimicrobial resistance and have seen the headlines about superbugs and nightmare bacteria. Unfortunately, this threat is very real. Now more than ever, it's critical that we work together to contain these drug-resistant pathogens and the infections they cause. Keeping our hands clean is one of the most important ways to prevent the spread of infections. Every time we enter the patient zone, we can get dangerous germs on our hands and spread them to ourselves or to other patients. Sometimes we don't clean our hands as often as we should, not because we mean to do harm, but because it's a daunting task. Some of us might have to do it 100 times a day. It takes dedication, mindfulness, and time. Our patients' lives depend on it. Let's applaud the efforts and improvements we've already made. Increases in hand hygiene adherence have led to decreases in healthcare-associated infections. At the same time, we know there is still room for improvement. We can all do better. Our clean hands count. Now, more than ever.
What we will be showcasing in the next 2 days is a chef showcase with 5 fabulous chefs that you will get to meet.
I hope your scallops and everything was delicious.
Chef Nikolai. He had seared octopus. It was really good.
Really good.
Unbelievable. Great.
Good mix of
Thumbs up.
ingredients.
Delicious.
Dania, how you doing out there, Dania?
When I saw you and that girl walking around, I would rather go blind, boy, than to see you walk away from me. Oh, yeah.
Well, I know where you look was waiting me Uncle Bear.
say see it, live it, love it. 1, 2, 3. See it, live it.
Testing. Good evening. This is the Community Redevelopment Agency regular meeting. It is Tuesday, March 10, 2020 at 5:30 p.m. Can you please call the roll?
Chair Llewellyn.
Here.
Vice Chair Odman.
Here.
Board Member Brandemart.
Here.
Board Member Harris.
Here.
Board Member James.
Here.
CRA Director Williams.
Here.
City Attorney Ansbrook.
Here.
Citizen comments, we have several. Emmanuel George. Please state your name and address.
Good evening, Emmanuel George, 17 Northeast 2nd Avenue, Dania Beach, Florida. Just wanted to speak about what's on the agenda about the J.A. Ely housing development. To my understanding earlier that some time ago that it was supposed to be affordable housing, and I just want to know if there's any truth to the matter of a change in it being townhomes. Because what I see from the perspective of someone who's been living here quite some time, that basically we were having people who are making decisions on a certain community, a certain section in Dania Beach, who oftentimes do not really come to that section unless it's a photo op at a church. And I think it's time more so for community development in this community. The last time I was here, we were talking about being more inclusive for all, which is a great thing, which is cool. I think we need to show some more inclusiveness by community development, by economic growth. We want to have affordable housing. That's great. But let's also have community development. Oftentimes, the people there are economically disenfranchised. And if there is more community development and economic growth in terms of resources, in terms of art, in terms of workshops, in terms of necessities, coding, tech, STEM, things that could often help a community, it would be great, because the way it's looking, that area, J.A. Ely Boulevard, which is a historically black community, is going to look very different in about 5 to 10 years. So I think we need to focus on more community development, more bettering the community. We want inclusiveness, like the Vice Mayor said the time I was here. I think we should focus on inclusiveness by bringing more balance towards helping a certain section of the community. There was an Oasis project, and that was there for quite some time, and I was wondering what the update is with that as well. I'm speaking as someone who is not attacking anyone, but speaking as someone who is concerned and wants a true balance and equality for this city, and not just constantly building homes. That's cool because the population is increasing, but we do need to have some balance. There needs to be more resources to better that community. And all of y'all know me quite well, and y'all seen the work I've done, and so you know where I stand on this, and we do need to better the area. And also, before I leave, I do want to say that I also found out on December 19th, 2019, that the lot where next to the cemetery and next to College Gardens was recently purchased by some developers in Brickell. And I actually had a conversation with them. And it was a pretty cool conversation. And basically they're the same people who are doing Crystal Lakes, and that's in the Hollywood section. And also, I talked to them about possibly, if they want to develop in the community, let's help the community. And I also talked about bringing forth possibly the J.A. Ely Historical Museum and Resource Hub in that community. We want to have some balance. We want some equality on a level of community development to better the people. So just putting that out there now, and I've heard that some people here, I even spoke to them. So I'm just putting that information out there. So let's take this moment now to hold these developers accountable. And if they want to do what they want to do, they purchased it legally, which is fine. But let's also bring some balance to the community to help the people who have been living in this community for so long. So let's use this time, because this is public record, so that now the people will know, and let's make that happen. Let's bring forth some resources to that area. I know you're going to cut me off, but that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Colin May Jones. Please state your name and address and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
My name is Colleen May Jones, and I live on 22 Northwest 14th Ave, Dania Beach, Florida. And I want to congratulate the 5 people that are sitting before me for making the wise decision to hire this beautiful lady right here. She's done so much for our community, and I'm so grateful for Ms. Williams.
Bobby Grace.
Bobby Grace, 110 Northwest 8th Avenue, Dania Beach, Florida. There are two things that I really wanted to touch bases on because before I left the commission, these were things that were implemented in the budget for 2018 that I have not seen come before fruition. The first one is the 14th Street, 14th Avenue, the Oasis project that was supposed to have been finished by the 1st of this year. I have not seen anything happen with that. Nothing has been done. I don't know where the funding is. The monies were implemented in that budget. I know that you're not going to answer me in this setting, but somebody needs to answer somebody to let us know exactly where we are with that. The other thing is, on 2018, we took $500,000, put it in the budget for the 3 homes that we were going to build on J.A. Ely Boulevard. That was the start of those 3 homes. The implementation was that we were going to build 1 home, that we were going to have law enforcement, and the other 2 that we were going to have residents live in. I have not seen anything except the 2 meetings that we had stating that we were going to be very close to having it done the 1st of this year. We're in March right now. I don't even think an RFP or anything else has gone out. First of all, I want to know where the $500,000 is, and I want to know when we're going to start, when we're going to do an RFP. And I don't want to see townhouses in that community. I want to see what we implemented from the beginning, those 3 homes. And if that is not going to be what we said we're going to do, then somebody is backsliding. Thank you so much.
Paul Wiggins.
Well, good evening. Reverend Paul Wiggins, 215 Northwest 5th Avenue. Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the CRA board, staff, it's been a long time since I've seen you all, and I miss you. And I stand to tell you that I love you tonight, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. But I certainly am excited as I look at the agenda and see the resolution regarding the homes in the CRA area. I want to congratulate the staff on doing an outstanding job regarding that. My colleague and I, Bishop Scott, did 2 of the homes, magnificent work, and I'm excited about the homeowners, coming in there. So I look forward to this board passing the resolution so that we can keep that project moving and make way for some other things to happen in the community. And again, I certainly look forward to hearing more about the J.A. Ely Boulevard project as well, because I do believe that it's time for us to escalate the work in the CRA. And I look forward to working with you all on that. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Administrative reports.
Good evening, CRA board. I'm going to keep my comments very brief this evening, but I do want to say that I am happy to be back from maternity leave and excited to continue the work that the CRA has been doing in my absence. And I just want to touch on a few things in the administrative report so that we are clear on some things. I want to make a clarification to number 2 regarding the Tryon development. This evening, there was supposed to be a site plan modification request on the City Commission agenda, and the Sun Sentinel inadvertently did not advertise that, and so therefore that is being moved to the March 24th meeting. I did speak with the developer, Dev Matwani, actually yesterday at a conference that Board Member Harris and I were visiting together, and he said that June would be when they project to start the project. As you know, we are working on a development agreement with that developer for the project to coincide with the grant funding that we have been allocated from Broward County. Going on to business retention visits, as many people on city staff are aware, they've probably seen DeAndre walking around quite a bit. He has been visiting several businesses in the CR district, and at our next meeting, he is actually going to be talking a lot about our commercial property improvement grants. We currently have 3 businesses that have taken advantage of that program, and they are in the process of renovating their properties, and we'll be giving a report on that at our next CRA board meeting. I did take the opportunity to meet with the city manager regarding the monument signs for the parks, and we had a very productive discussion, and we will be having a follow-up meeting regarding landscaping and talking about the scale of some of the signs at some of the facilities that we discussed. So more on that to come very soon. I also want to report that the wayfinding sign project that was slated to be funded with Community Development Block Grant funding, Broward County determined with HUD that the project was not viable for funding through CDBG. The allocation was about $172,000, and so we no longer have that funding to be able to complete the wayfinding sign project. If that is something that the CRA board would still like to move forward with, and I would like to recommend that as well, I think that's something that we have to take a look at as far as funding for the upcoming fiscal year. Please note that I am recommending about $500,000 worth of cost savings with the J.A. Ely Boulevard housing project, and perhaps that could be reallocated to fund the wayfinding sign project or other capital projects that may not have been able to go forward for this fiscal year. And that concludes the administrative report.
I have a question for you. You have in there the OIC training.
Yes.
I know there was another one that took place in February.
Yes.
What was the attendance for that?
So we had 5 people that did the course, and Reverend Wiggins was in attendance, as was our economic development manager and the OIC staff. So we had 5 people that sat through the 5-hour course.
Okay.
And yes.
It was different people than the ones that were there in January?
Correct. Each session is the same. So we just separated it into 3 months to give people different opportunities to attend.
Are we doing anything more to try to promote that, to try to get more people to come?
Well, I think one of the challenges that we're having, and this is a challenge for many workforce development training courses, is that if there is not a job opportunity tied to the course, some people don't recognize the benefit. And so one of the things that I'm looking at, and I think you were emailed on this from someone that you met at the mayor's conference?
Yes.
Okay, so I am setting up, I have already set up a call, and I want to talk to you more about that. But looking at different ways to energize our community to want to be trained, even if there is not a specific job at the end of the rainbow, but also partnering with CareerSource, who has job opportunities. They may not all be in Beach, but there are job opportunities in Broward County that these folks could be eligible for. So I would rather focus our next opportunity for training on having some job opportunities that are tied to it. And we did that a little bit with this one. I know that OIC has some contacts with Waste Management, and they were looking at if there are opportunities there. But again, I did not see that those who were interested to start with and who may not have gone through the course, I did not see where they were committed to getting the training without having like a guaranteed job at the end of it.
Okay, I'm glad you contacted those individuals. Okay, next. Arts and Seafood Festival.
Okay, so in your agenda, there was a memo related to the planning for the Arts and Seafood celebration. And I also made contact with every board member over the weekend regarding the coronavirus and what steps we may be taking to prevent the spread of that at such a large event. As you know, health officials are warning against events with large crowds. And at the time when I contacted you on Saturday, actually, we got another confirmed positive case in Broward County. So right now we're at 4 confirmed cases. And I would recommend that we be as cautious as possible as we look at all events that the CRA has planned, including Dating After Dark and Art in the Hall. And I am recommending that due to the nature of this virus and because there's so much uncertainty around whether or not this is spreading beyond the 4 confirmed cases, I think that it would be in the best interest of the CRA to not have the event on March 28th and 29th as scheduled. We don't know how fast this is going to be growing. And honestly, we don't know how many people will be afraid to come to the event, and that can impact our vendors. That can impact, those selling their art, those selling food, and part of our economic success and financial stability in the event is dependent on attendance at the event. So I just wanted to provide you with that additional memo that you received earlier and was printed out for your perusal this evening, and to hear your feedback and commentary.
Vice Chair.
Did we look at the cost comparison of rescheduling it versus canceling it altogether?
So in order to reschedule or postpone the event, I would like to, if that's the direction of the board, if that's what you're inclined to do, I think that we would need to have a workshop to discuss it, because there's certain considerations that really impact what the cost would be. So to pick a new date, not knowing if this, if the coronavirus is going to spread further or not, is going to be very difficult at this time. We also are looking at the weather and climate during certain seasons of the year. We're also looking at the administration of the event in a new fiscal year and what that would mean. So we have not looked at alternate events at all at this point. We were waiting to discuss it with you to make sure we knew what direction you were headed in. If that was the recommendation of the board, we would look at different dates to make sure that we were not conflicting with another event locally. That's something that we do every year when we pick the date. We make sure that we're not competing with local or enough regional events that would cause us to not have the attendance that we seek. There are also implications based on the vendors that we have contracted right now. If we do move the event to another date, some of those vendors will likely be able to stay with us, but some may not be able to stay with us because perhaps they have other things in other places that they've already committed to. This includes bands, this includes sound, power, stage, restrooms, that sort of thing. So there's a lot that comes with that. My recommendation right now is not to definitively say when the next installment of this will be. I think that we need to dive a little deeper, but I think we for sure need to follow what my recommendation is to not have it on the 28th and the 29th.
Okay, so we could still stand to discuss if we are going to, I mean, hopefully everyone's going to be on the same page that having it in 2.5 weeks would be wholly irresponsible. But beyond that, to look at if you could either maybe bring us back the information or, like you said, do a workshop so we could see if it makes more sense to, do it in 3-4 months. I have no idea. Or to forego it altogether and just go to the, or go do it next year. That's all I have.
Board Member Brandon Marty.
Yeah. I thought the cell phone was off. I apologize for that. Okay. Raquel, I looked at this memorandum, and there's only one thing I don't like on it, and where it says, boys and girls, board members, the CRA board decides today to not have the event. I would like to have that more or less on the order of what the vice mayor is saying. It's only postponed. It's better that it's postponed, because this way, if any monies were put out, they could use that towards a credit to another event. And I agree with the vice mayor. We don't know. Everything might be great by September or even August. So I don't like just canceling it and not saying that it's going to be brought up again, because it is a huge success. So I would rather that say postponed. And also, as you also said, like a workshop, and I'm going to kill whoever's calling me because they know I'm at a meeting. Aside from that, I apologize again. Unless they're, never mind. Tell them go to hell. All right, they know where I am. I've been here for 8 years at the same spot at the same day of the month. So what's the big deal? All right, so that's all that I have to say on that, because they really come here and they enjoy the event.
Board Member Harris.
I agree with Board Member Brenda Marte that maybe if we can, we should postpone it. I mean, it would be my best guess or my best request to have it as it is, and show that we are proactive with more Purell stations and hand washing sinks like they do at PGA events and all that, because it is our signature event. It is once a year. Based on the success of last year and so many other things being canceled, I think that if we have it, we'll be the heroes, because we'll be able to show that we can do our signature event without fear of any kind of reprisal. And those of us, and I've talked to other healthcare members, that hand washing is available, and I mean I would just hate to see it canceled, because everybody's worked so hard on it for this year, and the last couple of days in my personal business that we have had a lot of cancellations, and this is just one more. But they had Carnival on the Mile last week in Coral Gables, and that proved to be very successful. But I think with some of the other things being canceled, if we decide to have it, then we might have a better attendance, because, and 4 cases in a county of over 2 million people, what are the percentages of that? I mean, there's so many unknowns right now, so best guess would be to have it. Second best would be to postpone it and have it at another time. So I think we need some more expert advice on that, because I'm certainly not an expert. I just wash my hands a lot. Look at yesterday, right? When we were at the ULI, it was, fist bumps and and elbow bumps and a lot of hand sanitizer, but the event went on as scheduled. And it was in a confined area. The Arts and Seafood Festival is an outdoor event, not in a confined area. So there may be some additional compromises there we can make.
Board Member James.
Yes, after my comment, I would want to hear from the fire chief to see what he would recommend. I do know, I know we all been reading up on it. I do know there are only 4 confirmed cases, but there are thousands of pending cases on this. There are a lot of people that are being quarantined, and just because there are only 4 confirmed today does not mean that number cannot rise, because again, there are thousands of people who are currently being processed and tested for it. So I would like the expert, or the person probably with more knowledge of what the county is saying and what he would recommend.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioner Sergio Palacio, your district fire chief. So I can only go by the recommendations of the Department of Health. The Department of Health basically said today, and have been saying all along, try to avoid large gatherings and public places. So that's the only recommendation I can give you. As far as canceling any events, that would be your decision, but that's coming from the experts right there.
Okay, thank you. And just to add to that, I've spoken to a few of the vendors who are, you know, this is a free event, but the vendors have to pay to come to this event. And if it is a scare where people are increasingly growing afraid of this, not saying that we are afraid, but if the people aren't going to come, the vendors do not get paid. And a lot of the vendors are afraid to buy the foods in large quantities because they fear that they're not going to be able to sell all of those foods and to get the revenue that they want. So I know that there are a few vendors that are thinking about dropping out of the event as well. So that's another thing for us to think about when we make a decision. Thank you.
And I would add that although, yes, we could potentially be the heroes by having an event when nobody else is, we could also have a major problem if people end up getting sick while they're here. And the concern, my bigger concern is that the confirmed cases have all been related to port, and we're so close to the port, and there are a lot of people coming in from cruise ships and whatnot, and it's a little dangerous. I also have a question. What about Dania After Dark this weekend?
I added that to the end of the memo. I am recommending cancellation of Dania After Dark indefinitely, and as we monitor the situation, and if there's a recommendation to resume, I will bring that forward to you also, as well as Art in the Hall, which is the complimentary event for Dania After Dark, and that is in the enclosed City Hall atrium.
Board Member Brandon Marty?
Yeah. I just would like to say that last weekend they had Arts Festival in Fort Lauderdale on Las Olas, and the attendance was down. The attendance was down. And I don't want to be known as one of the ones who said, oh, well, poo-poo, this can't happen to me, or this can't happen to someone in my family. I think by taking these drastic actions that we are showing the residents that we care about them. We love them. Because even though you were safe and you feel like you're safe, it doesn't mean the guy next to you was safe for you. And I think that the best thing, even I'm thinking about it, I have a very large club, as you all know, very large. And Monday, I ordered 112 sandwiches for 112 people. Now, IT Parker is per what the chief was saying, is a confined area. The ventilation in there is not good. I mean, we don't have windows open, we don't have doors open. It's us breathing and you breathing our air. It's still the same thing. So I've spoken to the city manager, and I told her they don't even know about this yet. Still going to get the 112 sandwiches. However, I'm going to stand on the sidewalk in front of IT Parker with a little bit of help from Raphael. And as each member comes up, I'm going to give them it's a basket that they make over at 2J's, and tell them, please, for your safety, we prefer you take this home and enjoy it at home. And we're still going to give them their lunch because they would have been coming there for it anyway. And I have no way to reach them. I'm not going to sit down and call up 258 people for nobody. That ain't happening. So I'm chipping in that, and that's going to be a hard thing to do. But I agree, Dania After Dark should be canceled, as well as the one that's in the confined area, which is the lobby right outside the store. And if you think about it, you're not really safe here either in this room. And I am one of the ones at the high risk for it, but I'll come because I love my city. Because otherwise they might try to throw me off, no other choice. So I want you to know that I stand behind the recommendations of this commission to cancel the upcoming events. Thank you.
Do we need to make a decision on this now?
I think everyone has pretty much stated their feeling on the matter, but as far as administration of the event, I need to take action immediately. So if everyone is expressing, or if there's consensus to not have it or postpone it, and I'll come back with a workshop date recommendation or a couple dates where we can talk about rescheduling of this event and what the considerations are. But yes, we need to have the direction of the board so that we can take the proper actions.
My concern with rescheduling it is that we've had a problem in the past with rain when you start getting into rainy season. So that's, and we're going to be getting into that soon. So I guess if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it now. We have some time. Or just want to workshop it, or I don't know.
I would rather workshop it because I want to see the numbers of what it would, what it would cost. If it's going to end up being more expensive, that's going to drastically influence how some of us feel about it. So maybe if we could get on, if you could email us some dates for when we could do that workshop, that would be helpful.
It's fine with me. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, so Director, if you would send us some dates, or I guess we could send you some dates, whichever, and we'll figure it out from there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is presentations. First one, Kathleen Weeks.
Well, I want to call CRA manager Kathleen Weeks forward, and she really doesn't even know what's really going on right now. But I want to make sure that I publicly acknowledge Kathleen Weeks for all the work that she has done to make the CRA function on a day-to-day basis, particularly during my maternity leave, my absence. Kathleen has displayed exemplary leadership, commitment, and capacity to manage the CRA in a way that reflects our high standards of excellence. Kathleen has been with the CRA for many years. Is it 7? 7 years. And when I first started in this position almost 3 years ago, and I met Kathleen, I instantly knew that she was really the foundation of the CRA, and that she really has the work ethic necessary to allow the CRA to function. And I just want to call her up right now. Come forward, Kathleen. When I tell you this wasn't a long weekend vacation. This wasn't a 2-week vacation that I was out. This was 12 weeks of me being out, and Kathleen was phenomenal. And I also want to commend the rest of the CRA staff for stepping up and making sure that nothing was missed, no projects went undone, and I'm really, really appreciative. So I want to call the CRA board forward this time. Okay, Kathleen, they're asking that you come up here. And Keisha, I don't know why you gave it to her.
All right, on 3, 1, 2, 3, say Dania Beach. Oh no, you guys did not say Dania Beach. I said it for you guys. Thank you.
Okay. I don't see him. I don't see Larry Baum here. All right, well, all right. Okay, so we'll hold off on Mr. Baum because he's not here yet, and my understanding is the Joseph Milton presentation is postponed. Okay, consent agenda. Do we have any polls?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No proposals and bids. Next is discussion and possible action, J.A. Ely Boulevard Housing Development, Smith Store property.
Chair Llewellyn, I just want to interrupt for 1 second. With the adoption of the item on consent, there's a lottery procedure that we are recommending to the CRA board and that Chair Llewellyn will be able to administer. I just want to say that many residents expressed interest in our housing program, and there are 4 potential home buyers that are selected at this point to move forward with the program. Some of them are actually in the audience today, but I have not met them before or seen them before, so I don't know who they are. And I would just like them to stand for a moment. So with the 6 available properties that are being developed right now, we do have 4 applicants that have made it to this point in the process in order to move forward to try to acquire some more funding from Broward County, and that's why we would like to move forward with this lottery. This will allow each of these homeowners to select the specific property in which they want to purchase. That will leave 2 homes left and that are still available. There are some people in the process right now of trying to become approved, and we want to encourage folks to stick it out. We do have 2 homes that will be available after this.
Are we picking it out of like the hat? Out of a house, not the hat. Okay. Did you shake it?
Who's picking it?
Don't look. Okay. I'm very excited about this. This is going to be a very lucky one for us. Okay. Priscilla and Elizabeth Anis.
Jacob, I knew. Get something with this couple. Congratulations.
It was meant to be.
I have Jessica.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And just for clarification, we will be contacting these homeowners in the order in which they were picked and request the specific home that they would like to purchase and move forward in the process with. Thank you.
Okay, so now move on to discussion and possible action on the J.E. Ely Boulevard housing development.
So I remember probably over a year ago, the CRA board, when contemplating to do the affordable housing project that we just exercised the lottery for, I think one of the concerns that was raised was to ensure that we got through this initial pilot and, really showed that we were able to build these homes, get buyers, go through the process, the tedious process of making sure that we have all of our ducks in a row in order to make this project successful. Less than a year ago, with the conveyance of several vacant parcels in the CRA district from the city of Dania Beach, the CRA was deeded 3 properties that collectively have been called the Smith Store properties. They're on J. Ely Boulevard, not too far from Addix Middle School and Bethune Elementary. Now, the City Commission, during the administration of Robert Baldwin, recognized that these properties and the developments that were on them were a nuisance to the city, with several calls for law enforcement to these properties. And the city acquired the properties by purchase for 2 and by deed from Broward County at no cost, and demolished the properties with the intent to redevelop them with single-family homes, as indicated in the deed restriction that went along with it. In addition to the desire to develop these homes as single-family, the City Commission at the time determined that the city should invest in this development. The Commission said, well, we not only want it to be developed, but we're going to commit resources, financial resources, to this potential redevelopment project to the tune of $500,000. And that funding has been set aside in a special account. It's still there. It's untouched. And I didn't bring forward a recommendation on these parcels until I felt that we had made it through the process far enough with the other 6 homes that we're developing. So that's why it's coming at this time. To go into my recommendation a little bit further, I really want to highlight that we are recommending that these parcels be developed without the use of that $500,000 that was set aside. I think that there is a way for us to access the private capital from private developers to develop these parcels and still be able to generate revenue, probably the same or a little bit more than what we would be able to generate if we were to self-develop. I've provided you with 2 major options that are kind of, should the CRA be the developer or should the development community be the developer? And what I've proposed is what I'm calling the hybrid approach, where the CRA, like with the current housing project that we have, the CRA has some influence and control over the development process, but where the development community can insert their private capital to redevelop these properties. And in the backup, I've provided a map of the properties, the deed restriction, and some of the backup from previous city commission meetings outlining what the intent for the properties was. And I would really like to get some direction on policy from the CRA board so that we can move forward and bring the appropriate items back to you that are based on the direction and the approach that is recommended and hopefully approved. And I'm sorry, I've left out one thing, and this is to speak to one of the residents that made a comment earlier. Whereas the current development of the 6 homes was taking an approach for affordable housing, this project is looking at implementing workforce housing, which is a higher income level. You would have to meet the qualifications, whereas 140% of the area median income, you would not be able to earn anything above that based on your household size. And I have put this in the recommendation because based on my recollection and my reading of the minutes and everything related to these properties, it appeared that the City Commission wanted these properties to really lift the neighborhood in a different way and really showcase opportunities at a higher level than the affordable housing opportunities. Not to say that there's a huge difference among the quality of housing, but it's to say that we're looking at targeting certain types of home buyers based on their income levels.
And that's what I was going to ask you. That was I didn't think it was affordable housing. I thought it was actually supposed to be first responders or teachers, that sort of thing, were going to be the individuals that went into these properties. Is that correct?
That is correct, and we do believe that workforce housing would encompass potential buyers with those jobs and careers. Okay. And something else that I need to put it out there because I've spoken to a number of the residents in the area who are would actually prefer to have townhouses there as opposed to single-family homes. I know that's something that's in the deed restriction, but I do think it's something that we should talk about because the residents, the people who live there, they're the ones who are directly impacted by the homes that are there. And although I know that it's in the deed restriction, it is something that can be changed if we have a unanimous vote.
So it's something that I do think we need to discuss, considering it's residents who have actually come forward and made this request. So, Commissioner Harris or Board Member Harris?
Well, based on everything that Raquel, based on everything that we heard and saw yesterday, I think if the development community needs to be involved because they're like ready to build everything. I mean, look at what they're doing in Fat Village and all that. So I think, we look at a lot of other different housing types to maximize the space. But let's look at everything, not just one, but many. That's my opinion.
I'm not sure who hit their button next, so I'll go Board Member James.
Sure, thanks. Well, I think that since it needs a unanimous vote on it, I'm not going to support anything other than single family, so we can kill that conversation with that part of it. I also want to say I'm from this community. I'm from this area. I'm from this neighborhood. I was mayor when we took over Smith Store and acquired that. And I haven't heard anything contrary to this before today about someone else wanting something different there. I do know that us as policymakers, we hear from residents all the time and do not vote with them. And so with that being said, I think that what I'm going to support is what three of us who are currently here supported over a year ago. And the reason why I'm going to address a comment that was made on citizens' comments, the reason why it has taken a while is because we were also doing the other 6 homes and wanted to make sure that we had a consistent type of measure to make sure that it would be a success. Also, if we are going to move forward with the recommendation of the executive director, and we do have that cost savings of $500,000, I do think that that's a different discussion that we need to have on what is going to happen with that. Seeing as though a lot of our initiatives were cut from the budget with that funding, I think this is a great opportunity, as we do with mid-year and other things, that we can recoup those projects or some of those projects. So it would be, I would follow the recommendation on top of continuing to keep those as detached single-family homes, because I haven't heard from one resident either, and one resident there, and one is, I don't know if there's any residents that are in the audience that were the ones that preferred single-family, but I haven't heard from any of them. Thank you.
Board Member Brandon Marty. Listen, the previous commission that made this decision to spend all that money in tearing down Smith's store because we had to leave so many officers there all the time for all the drugs, for all the other dirty stuff that was left on the ground. Our intent made it very clear on what was to go up there, and that is single-family house with the first responders to be afforded the right to live in there at a cheaper rate. Plus, they couldn't just like say buy it and then move out the next year. They had to stay there. They had to live there, so that the area, which was not a good area at that time, and now it's beautiful, so that the people there felt safe. I don't care about builders. I don't care about what they want to do with multiple stuff. We agreed on it being individual houses for the sole purpose of first responders first. And I stick by our decision. I have to anyway, because I was on that, and so was Commissioner Commissioner Grace, and we were proud that we picked it out to be single-family homes. And I'll tell you right now, since you can't do it without my vote, you ain't getting it.
Vice Chair?
So heated.
So eat it for now.
No, I said so heated, not
You
heated.
said eat it.
No, don't eat anything. I lost my train of thought. Oh, so is that in the agreement that it's going to be specifically for the first responders? Because I remember that conversation from sitting over there, but I don't now remember what the outcome is.
As far as I can recollect from my review of the deed restriction, it does not indicate that that the properties must go to a first responder. I do know that that was a part of the discussion and the direction of the City Commission in multiple meetings. And then I think there were meetings that came after that that discussed opening it up to others that may be interested as well, but with some sort of preference toward a first responder. I do want to highlight that upon review of the zoning code and regulations, the property is zoned as neighborhood residential, and single-family homes are not only permitted, but actually it's the only type of development that can be done on those properties based on the current zoning code. And you can clarify for me, Tom, if necessary, but.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay, so yeah, we get it, single-family homes, but it's open to everyone, so you don't have to be a first responder, you don't have to be a teacher, or whatever it was.
Okay, so what I'd like to do going forward is to bring back items that will clarify the process, because we have to take this step by step. There's going to be items coming forward that are related to this, and we can outline the type of eligibility criteria that we want to have for these homes, and that can be part of the discussion going forward. But I don't think that's a determination.
Can you do that? Can you make it just for the first? Is that an option? You can make it just for that?
Yes, there are programs that are designated for certain types of individuals, and other places have done that successfully, where they get police officers or some sort of law enforcement in these homes, because the idea is that with those police cars parked outside, it's going to deter criminal activity. So that is I think that was the intent of the commission at the time, and I know there was discussion to perhaps have one or more of the homes be designated for first responders, but perhaps opening up to teachers, nurses, and those who would also qualify in the workforce housing category.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that.
Oh, wait 1 second.
Board Member Brandon Martin.
And I think also, as was spoken about then, if they don't keep up their mortgage payment, guess who gets the house back? The city.
Is that the case?
Am I right?
So
the bank first, and with the bank, they give us the first right to buy the house.
Okay, so this is a little different from our affordable housing program. So I am not currently recommending that we do down payment assistance in the way that we did the affordable housing project. So the revenue that we would be generating would be upfront with the sale of the property to the developer or developers, and that's how we would generate revenue on this. And once we deeded over the property, it would be in the control of the developer, but we would authorize which homeowners are eligible to purchase it. and that homeowner would be able to purchase fee simple and own the property.
What's our next step?
So our next step would be, as outlined in the hybrid approach. First, I want to inform you that I did receive appraisal reports on the property. I did not have it before the meeting agenda was published, so that was really step number one, making sure that we know the market value. However, based on the investment that we'd like to make with architectural professional services, we're going to determine what a fair value would be for the property, using the appraised value as a guide. Then I would bring forward a solicitation so that we can go out to the development community and say, hey, who is interested in purchasing one or more of these parcels? I know that there are several developers that have reached out to me and locally and beyond, and so I would want to advertise this as widely as we can so that we can determine some viable proposals to either develop one or multiple properties. That would be the next step.
Okay, do you need anything from us, though?
Not at this time.
Okay.
But if you can vote to approve the recommendation for us to follow this approach in this development project, acknowledging that this will be single family, owner occupied, and that we will not be utilizing the $500,000 that has been set aside.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, Mr. Baum is here. Let's go back to presentations. Larry Baum, Stellar Communities.
Can you come up here? So many of our board members, I'm sure, are very familiar with Larry Baum. Can you step forward, Larry? And because of the fact that we are approaching such a critical point in our housing program, specifically for the 6 homes that we're developing and providing down payment assistance for, I wanted to acknowledge and say thank you to Larry Baum of Stellar Communities for his contribution to our affordable housing program. For those of you that may not know in the audience, Mr. Baum has developed single-family homes in Dania Beach, and he is also undertaking a upcoming development project in the city of Dania Beach. And although his projects aren't located in the community redevelopment area, Mr. Baum has been so kind as to allocate $82,000 worth of funding for our affordable housing program, which will go towards our down payment assistance. And so I really just want to give him a round of applause for that.
Thanks.
This is something that we like to see happen with our development community. Although the homes that Larry is building are at the market rate level, he does recognize the necessity of affordable housing as part of the housing mix and makeup for the city of Dania Beach and how imperative that is. So I just wanted to acknowledge him and again say thank you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, of course, thank you for having me over here. As a lot of you know, housing is a passion of mine, and I feel that housing is a very important building block of financial independence. And I really applaud the city for making efforts to promote home ownership, because we're at an all-time low right now in home ownership in this country. Since the crisis, more and more people are renting, and it's hard to own a home. So I feel that we should really go back to trying to promote that and as many programs as we can have for the community and to rebuild our communities. It's a little step by step, but we have to do it, and that's why I really applaud the city for being so progressive in this, because most cities are not doing it. Most cities are just trying to see how many rentals they can throw into an area, and it's we should really focus on home ownership, and so I really applaud the city to do that, and I'm really happy that the vote passed, because the more opportunities for people to be able to own their own home is very important, and it's proven, and I really appreciate all the efforts, also, of course, with the CRA for giving me the opportunity to be a part of that, and thank you.
And we have an award for you that says, presented to Larry Baum of Stellar Communities in recognition of your generous contribution to the at-home Dania Beach Affordable Housing Program.
Thank you very much. Thanks.
All right, 1, 2, 3, Dania Beach. 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
We next have board member comments. Just trying to move it along. Okay, let me just go through. Just board member Brandon Marty, anything? You don't have to say anything.
Oh, thanks. I just want you all to, I give my condolences to our mayor. Her mom passed away, and she's here with you because she cares about you, too. But my condolences to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Board member Harris?
As I mentioned earlier, the executive director and I were at a ULI conference yesterday, and it was amazing to see what they're doing all over the county, particularly in a place called Fat Village, and everything was fat this and fat that and fat this, and no, FAT, it's Flagler Art and Technology. And when Phil Dunlap spoke yesterday, and we met him for our 115th anniversary, he expressed the importance of engaging the artists when planning development. So they even had some cool aspects of even designing the streets with like wave designs with lights inside of them. So to make it a totally walkable art city where you didn't really see any cars because the cars were all inside garages. So we can take a look at that some more. I think we should, but it's very innovative in Fort Lauderdale.
Board member James?
Yes, I just wanted to speak a little bit on a comment that I had heard earlier. I'm not sure of the development or the parcel that is south of the cemetery that one of our residents was speaking of, but I do want to encourage this board when we do have these types of projects moving forward to make sure that we are sustaining our neighborhoods. And so I'm not sure if it's the mixed use. I haven't even looked at that property, or I don't know much about that property, but I would be in support of doing something that is mixed use that could have some type of commercial aspect at the bottom of it. I do know, being born and raised in these neighborhoods, and understanding that everyone doesn't have access to vehicles, doesn't have access to different availabilities that other neighborhoods have, and so sustaining our communities is very important to me. So any opportunity that we have to sustain and grow our economic development, I am definitely in support of. So I'll be looking into that further. Thank you.
Vice Chair? No, nothing. And nothing from me. Thank you. We're adjourned.